Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Edwin W. Pauley Pavilion. 17 years ago, a remarkable era in intercollegiate basketball was born at UCLA. It was in April of 1948 that a young man from the state of Indiana accepted the position of head basketball coach here at Westwood. His success was immediate and continuous. His winning record has been long acclaimed. He has been more than a coach, having produced not only championship teams, but young men who have been a credit to him in our university. Tonight, we are gathered to honor this man. Through an aisle of captains, players, and managers, representing all of his 17 championship years, escorted by his assistant varsity coach, Jerry Norman, ladies and gentlemen, we proudly present Coach John R. Wooden. With us this evening are many individuals who have been helpful to John Wooden during his UCLA coaching career. It will not be possible to introduce everyone. However, we particularly wish to acknowledge the presence of two gentlemen who not only contributed to the success of John Wooden, but guided UCLA's athletic program as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we are happy to have with us Mr. Wilbur Johns and Mr. Bill Ackerman. Also present are several of John's former assistant coaches. A young man who came with him from Indiana in 1948, Mr. Ed Powell. And from Northern California, we are happy to say hello to Mr. Doug Sale. Also, an assistant of John's for many years, Mr. Bill Putnam. Speaking on behalf of the students at UCLA, we present the president of the Associated Students, Mr. Bob Glasser.
Chancellor Murphy, Coach Wooden, fellow students, ladies and gentlemen. Coach Wooden, I speak tonight representing the 17 UCLA student generations who have witnessed your wonderful coaching. During this period of time, the players under your tutelage have achieved highest stature and acclaim. This is a reflection of you, a warm and great human being. During this time also, your teams have earned respect for their athletic prowess. This is a reflection of you as the most outstanding basketball coach in the land. For these past years of inspiring individual effort and exciting basketball coaching, we attend here in greatest appreciation. For the many more successful years to come, we wish you health and happiness in enjoying them here at UCLA. Thank you.
Representing the past, present, and future Bruin basketball players will be the captain of John Wooden's very first team at UCLA, Mr. Ron Pearson.
That's too high. Chancellor Murphy, Mr. J.D. Morgan, Coach John Robert Wooden, and UCLA basketball fans. It gives me a great pleasure on behalf of all the basketball players, the past, present, and future, to take part in the tribute to Coach Wooden. Tonight we are paying tribute to Mr. Basketball. Not only Mr. Basketball of UCLA, but as far as we all are concerned, Mr. Basketball of the United States. His record speaks for itself. In 17 years at UCLA, his teams have now won 10 championships. They have won the last 4 consecutive conference championships. They have won the last 3 Los Angeles Classics. And to top it all off, his last 2 teams have won the national championship for UCLA. His record the last 2 years happens to be a phenomenal 58 wins and 2 losses. But now, one of Coach Wooden's dreams have come true. Don't you all agree that this is the most beautiful basketball pavilion in the United States? But I'm going to get even with Coach. He used to give us some rough times. John, you know what a terrific home court advantage means to a team. Now, you've been running around for 17 years and you haven't had a home court. We're going to expect you to improve on that 58 and 2. In saluting Coach Wooden, we players know that at UCLA, especially playing for him, number one, you come to this university for an education, and secondly, you come to play basketball. But we're sure blessed, and I'm sure happy that such people as Goss, Washington, McIntosh, Lynn, Lacey, the whole varsity, and the whole freshman team decided to, number one, come and get your education here. And secondly, you boys don't know what's expected of you in the future on this court. Coach Wooden has taught us that there is no such thing as defeat. The other teams will make the mistakes, but we're not going to be beaten. We basketball players are not an odd lot. It seems that about a month ago, Captain Jimmy Coletto of the UCLA football team happened to say something in the paper that now, since they've won a few games, that they talk a little bit at UCLA beside basketball. Jimmy, you don't know how proud we are of you and that football team this year, because you just... Now, let's not give him too much of a hand, because you didn't hear what I had to say. We're very, very proud, because I think it's installed in you boys the same way that Coach Wooden is installing in the basketball players. You boys don't know defeat. And if it continues, the football team and winning and so forth, we'll definitely let you and all the football players join the elite basketball group. We are a lucky bunch to have a pavilion like this. But won't it be nice someday when our football team can play on our campus in their own stadium? Today I read in the newspaper, John, I won't say which paper it was, but I read two interesting articles. Number one, we are selected as the number one team in the basketball polls, and we polled 29 out of the possible 35 votes. This should make you very happy in one way, and I know it doesn't in another, because everyone will be shooting at you. But I'll say this, I would rather be on this gentleman's side than the opposition's any day. I noticed that our crosstown rivals also in the paper today, John, are sort of shifting centers to forwards and forwards to guards and centers. I'll say this now, that when they come up with the right formula, maybe they can give us a game once in a while. I could go on talking all night about John Wooden, Coach John Robert Wooden. But goodness gracious sakes alive, Coach, we came here to watch the basketball game. And in closing, I'd like to say that Coach Wooden, in my thinking, is one of the greatest gentlemen I've ever been associated with. And in turn, we gave him a standing ovation, but from the player's standpoint, let's give him another standing ovation right now. Please, please.
Bruin alumni have long been proud of Coach John Wooden. With us this evening is the president of the UCLA Alumni Association, Mr. Bob Haldeman.
For once, John, I think I'm on safe ground to presume to speak for every one of the 180,000 UCLA alumni when I say to you, Coach Wooden, that we're very, very proud of you and of your association with UCLA. That association has come at an appropriate time in the university's history. Since you've been here, we've seen UCLA grow to a position of true eminence in the broad fields of education and research. But during that same time, you've brought UCLA to a position of unrivaled preeminence in the field of basketball. And the influence of your leadership and your character have been felt way beyond the limits, the sidelines of the basketball court. I think it's especially fitting that we salute you tonight on the occasion of the first game in this great new on-campus facility, because the thousands of hours and dollars contributed by UCLA alumni to make this magnificent pavilion a reality are the most tangible evidence I can think of the great high esteem and deep affection that we have for you. You've given us many very exciting evenings of basketball, John, but you've also given us the deep satisfaction of knowing that we're associated with a great coach and a fine gentleman. For all that you've done for UCLA in the years past, and for all that we know you're going to do in the years ahead, and for, on behalf of the outstanding young men who have had the privilege over the years and will have the privilege in the years to come of playing under you, and for all UCLA alumni everywhere, we thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to introduce the Chancellor of the University, Dr. Franklin D. Murphy.
John and Mrs. Wooden, fellow Bruins and friends, I guess it's fairly well known that I'm a reasonably articulate person, but I know when I think to be articulate and when not to be. And when two basketball teams are waiting to play, it's clear, my friends, that's not the time to make a speech. However, I would put a footnote. Simply say that nobody is happier this evening than I that this major effort in the life of the university, basketball, is now back on the campus where it has always belonged. And one day, at least, we might hope that all of our activities are back on the campus where they belong. But that is not the subject of the debate this evening, my friends. We're really here to honor an extraordinary human being. Universities are built by people, a very few people in retrospect. They're built by devoted friends, such as Edwin W. Pauley and the alumni who gave so generously to make this building possible. Universities are built by distinguished faculty members that in the last analysis make the contribution to teaching and research, which is the fundamental purpose of the university. And of this we can be very proud in UCLA. Universities are built by dedicated student bodies who understand that the university is a good deal more than merely an academic cafeteria, but that it is a place to which you give not only your mind but your heart. And it is in this context that intercollegiate athletics have always played and will always continue to play a role in the life of American universities from the east to the west coast. And then it is made by individuals, especially these traditions and these universities. And John Wooden is the example that we can always point to as the person par excellence who represents all that's good in the kind of a situation where young men and universities come together. John Wooden is not only the most successful and the best basketball coach in America today, he's one of its great human beings. Technically, he's turned out and will continue to turn out each year great and distinguished players. But ladies and gentlemen, most important, each year he turns out gentlemen, persons who not only play basketball but are going and indeed are productive citizens in our society. John, on behalf of the entire university community, I want to say to you, sir, this evening, we're deeply in your debt. We suspect, indeed we know, that as the months and years pass, we will ever be further in your debt. And nothing gives me greater happiness this evening in the presence of the UCLA family on campus at long last to give the love and affection to that family in a place that would not have been possible had you not been one of us. Thank you, John.
It is with pleasure that we introduce UCLA's Director of Athletics, Mr. J.D. Morgan.
Chancellor, ladies and gentlemen, you have heard from the students, from the former players, from the alumni, and from the Chancellor. And now I would like to tell you in a few short words how the Intercollegiate Athletic Department regards John Wooden. We know him to be a maker of champions. We know him to be a giant in his profession. But we also know him to be the champion of champions in his chosen field. It is with this thought in mind that this great and wonderful pavilion has come to fruition. A place, yea, a home for John Wooden and his great champions. John, I know that a little later on, the students will present you with a lovely gift. I know that the Los Angeles City Council unanimously passed a special resolution commending you for your outstanding success in your chosen field. We have had hundreds and thousands of calls, of letters, of telegrams, all paying homage to you on this evening. And now, it is my very great pleasure and responsibility to represent each and every person in this pavilion tonight with a token that they want you to have, and it is a genuine show of appreciation for your tremendous career at UCLA. And now, ladies and gentlemen, our very great friend, John Robert Wooden.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen of UCLA, I find it a little difficult to get started on saying anything here, and I know that that'll surprise a lot of the boys sitting down here at the end of the floor because they, as a general rule, feel that I have little difficulty in making some comments in regard to them. But first of all, I'd like to present those few people to you who are most dear to me. My wife, Nellie. She's been putting up with me for close to 40 years, and we've only been married for 33, so you can see. The next ones that I'd like to present to you, I'll present sort of in this manner, if I may. I received a telegram today. It said, "We're so proud of you, Dad. Our love will be with you tonight as always. My daughter, Nan, my son-in-law, Stan, my daughter-in-law, Carlene, and my son, Jim." And with them, of course, are my two oldest granddaughters, of whom many of you know I'm exceedingly fond. They have a little sister at home, and of course, Jim and Carlene have two grandsons at home, and in all probability about March we'll have a third grandson. But I want Christy and Karen to stand so you can see my two oldest granddaughters. I'm not at all misled by this occasion. I'm very happy, of course. But I know quite well that this salute to John Wooden is nothing more than a salute to the boys down here at this end of the floor and to the other boys here. And I'd like really for all of those boys who lined up here when I came, and these two teams down here who will later represent UCLA, and I hope me, and it's a pleasure to see a young man down there on the corner that isn't in uniform, Freddie Goss. I'd like to have all of those boys to stand, please. All of those boys on all of my teams. Once more, please. All of them. Hi, Harold. I'm delighted to see so many of them that I haven't seen for a while. And I have a number of letters that I'll cherish from a number of those who couldn't be here. And I noticed over here, I was a little bit surprised. I had no idea he's here. I suspect he probably came the longest way. One of my fellow Hoosiers, Harold Crawford from Indiana, from Indianapolis, Indiana. And certainly nice to see you here, Harold. I owe a debt of gratitude, I'm certain, not only to all of these players, but to all of you that are here in attendance tonight. Your presence here indicates your interest in the game of basketball. And of course, I've been interested in this game, I guess, all of my life. And I sincerely trust that I will remain interested in this game for the rest of my life, and I have no doubt but what I shall. But I'm also interested, tremendously interested in UCLA. And this building tonight, this is not the dedication at all, but it's the evening of the first basketball game in it. I'm sure that all of you are just as proud of it as I am. And I'm just most thankful to everyone who has had any part at all in its becoming a reality. And we all certainly owe so much to Regent Edwin Pauley, who is here for his most generous contribution, and to all of the others, not only for their contributions, but in each and every way that you have helped. Now, I too, in spite of the fact that I know that we all have a right to our own opinions and we won't all agree on everything, I have always said that if intercollegiate athletics are worthwhile, and I think they are worthwhile, they should be on the campuses of the universities. I'm immensely pleased in coming in to see seated over here, and I dare say there are some others scattered around, and I'd like to have the boys who will represent us this New Year's Day and who did such a wonderful job and gave us so much joy and pleasure just a week ago today. I'd like to have them all stand. There's no question that that makes these boys feel good, but you'll make them feel even better if you give them that same kind of reception, only with even a little more emphasis come New Year's Day. I'm also quite certain that some of our football coaches are here, and I was with Coach Prothrow a little while ago, and I think you should give them a good hand this evening, too. Have them all stand wherever they are. Now, if I attempted to pay my respects and acknowledge everyone that I should acknowledge, we'd have no basketball game tonight. And I'm anxious to see this year's varsity and freshman basketball teams perform, and I'm quite sure that you are too. However, before we start, I do want to, my assistant coaches were introduced, but my present assistant coach was not, and I'd like to have Jerry Norman stand and give him a good hand. Where is Jerry? Jerry? And Gary Cunningham, who will be coaching our freshmen, and Jake Hardy, his assistant, wherever they are down at the end. And I think in all probability the one person that arranging such an event of this kind, and it hasn't been easy, it's been most difficult for him, and some are probably unhappy with the seats that you have, and others are unhappy because they didn't get a seat at all. And, well, it has been quite a problem, but he has fought it through, and I am most grateful and deeply appreciative to a man who seems to make a habit of doing things for other people, Robert Fisher. If the statement that is true, that happiness begins where selfishness ends, then Bob Fisher must truly be a happy person. As far as our basketball team is concerned this year, we're going to do the best we can in every respect. Stay with us. We'll promise you that maybe we won't be as artistically successful as we have been in the last 2 years. I assure you, on behalf of myself, my assistant coaches, and my players, that if we aren't that successful, it won't be because of lack of effort. I'm sure that they all join me in thanking you for this turnout this evening, and we sincerely hope that this won't be the last time that you'll be here, and that we hope that you'll be out here game after game when we play at home. But don't just support UCLA basketball, support this great university in every respect. And once again, my humble gratitude for your being here this evening. Thank you.